He said they beat 3 NFL teams. That's, bro, you got to feel some type of way. You got to feel some type of way as an owner, bro. You want to whoop this nigga ass. What the fuck you mean you built a little team of hooligans and y'all came in here and ran our shit? What the fuck? Oh, nah, somebody got to grab this nigga ankles. Take him to the truck. Tie him up. We gonna drag him. And I'm back with another video, man. We over here live, twitch.tv/BryceDaBadger, man. Come over here. I don't know. I ain't got a schedule. I just be streaming from time to time. Usually when I don't feel like recording, I just be like, fuck it. I'm gonna just go live and do it. So here we are, man. Live reaction with NFL teams that almost existed. Crazy work, bro. Where we going? Somewhere in the USA. Let's see what's going on, bro. Videos by Troybert, man. Link is in the description. Already know, bro. If you like the video, subscribe if you fuck with the vibe. Let's learn some shit today, man. NFL teams that almost existed.
With the Los Angeles Bulldogs. In 1936, the NFL was only 16 years old, and almost every team in the league was clustered east of
Hold up. We had the Boston Redskins. I'm in the way. We got, you clearly see the Chicago Bears. All 4 of these teams are still here today. It's crazy. The Packers, the Bears, the Lions, and the Chicago Cardinals. So where were the Bears? Interesting. I don't think the Lions were in Detroit. They probably were, though. Probably were. And then you got the New York Giants. They were still okay. Cool. We got the Boston Redskins. Interesting. We got the somebody Dodgers. I don't know who that's supposed to be. Philly, of course. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates. So when did they change? When did it become the Steelers and then the Pirates of the MLB picked it up and carried it on? That's interesting. Really, really interesting.
Mississippi. The idea of putting a franchise on the West Coast terrified owners because cross-country travel during the Depression meant having to take trains, and nobody wanted to eat those costs. But a promoter by the name of Harry Myers, backed by the Los Angeles chapter of the American Legion with a budget of just $10,000, decided to build a team.
Shout out Harry Myers,
Gus Henderson as head coach, and went out and signed former Bears and Giants players and set up shop at the 18,000-seat Gilmore Stadium. The only catch was that the Bulldogs weren't actually in the NFL. They were an independent pro team running their own schedule out of the West Coast, playing whoever they could line up with. And they did shockingly well. The Bulldogs went 6-3-1 in their first year as a team, which included exhibition wins over the NFL's own Cardinals, Pirates, and Eagles. The league took notice and formally approved the Bulldogs as the only probational franchise in NFL history. With an
he said they beat 3 NFL teams. That's, bro, you got to feel some type of way. You got to feel some type of way as an owner, bro. You want to whoop this nigga ass. What the fuck you mean you built a little team of hooligans and y'all came in here and ran our shit? What the fuck? Oh, nah, somebody got to grab this nigga ankles. Take him to the truck. Tie him up. We gonna drag him. What is you talking about?
Promised that full membership would come the following year. And for just a brief moment, Los Angeles thought that they would finally have their football team. Unfortunately, when it came time to actually hand out that membership, making the Bulldogs a full-fledged NFL team, the owners got cold feet about the travel costs and instead gave membership to the Cleveland Rams. The Bulldogs were the team that had done everything that the league had asked, and they'd even beaten NFL competition. Despite that, they got passed over for a city 2,000 miles closer to everybody else. The Pennsylvania Keystoners.
Pennsylvania
in 1940,
what the hell is a Keystoner? Maybe he'll explain it. Let me shut up.
2 NFL franchises were failing miserably. Art Rooney's Steelers had lost an estimate of $100,000 over the previous 8 years, and Burt Bell's Eagles were in even worse shape financially. With failure on the horizon, the 2 owners came up with a plan. Rooney sold the Steelers to a 26-year-old Boston Steel heir named Alexis Thompson for $160,000. Then he turned around and plowed $80,000 of that into half ownership of Bell's Eagles. Thompson would take the Pittsburgh franchise and move it to Boston as the Iron Men. Meanwhile, Bell and Rooney would pool the Eagles into a new hybrid franchise called the Pennsylvania Keystoners. And they decided that they would split their home games between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. On paper, it was creative. 2 dying franchises between one that might actually survive is the kind of underdog story that people love.
It's so crazy how it just separated again, though.
But when they brought it to the NFL owners, they weren't buying it, and the league ended
Oh.
up vetoing both pieces of the
Okay,
deal.
I
They said
see.
no to the Boston move and no to the Keystoners. If this
I
story
see.
wasn't already weird enough, you'll be shocked to know that it gets much weirder. In April of 1941, Rooney and Thompson executed what historians would later call the Pennsylvania Polka, and they quite literally swapped cities with each other. Thompson took the Steelers franchise that he bought and moved them to Philadelphia, where they would eventually become the Eagles. And Rooney took the Eagles players, their equipment, and their entire front office back to Pittsburgh and renamed them the Steelers. And for all of you
What the fuck? What? Why?
wondering out there, yes, that does mean that the Steelers that you know today are technically the old Eagles wearing a different jersey. While
That's so crazy. What the fuck? Nah, bro. That's some stupid shit.
the original idea of the Keystone
That's
was killed by
stupid
the
as
NFL,
hell.
the concept actually came back one more time. In 1943,
I'm not understanding
with
what was
World
the
War
purpose
II
of
draining
doing
rosters
that.
across the league, the Eagles and the Steelers were forced into an emergency wartime merger for one season. They called themselves the Steagles, which I know sounds very
Yeah, I
weird,
remember.
but
I remember
promise
hearing
you,
this.
It's not. The hybrid franchise
Long
that the
time
NFL
ago, though.
vetoed in 1940 showed up 3 years later anyway, just not in the way that anybody envisioned. The Seattle Kings. During the early
Seattle
months of
Kings.
1969, a man named Wayne Field filed paperwork to incorporate something called the Sea Lions Management Corporation in Seattle.
fuck?
This company was a corporate ownership shell with no players, no coach, and no schedule. And the entire company only existed for one purpose. And that purpose was
Embezzlement.
to convince the NFL to eventually award Seattle an expansion franchise. In late 1971, Field hired Hugh McElhenney as general manager. McElhenney was a Hall of Fame running back whose nickname had always been the King. The organization rebranded around him, dropping the Sea Lions and becoming the Seattle Kings. Then
I see.
Edward Nixon, who was President Richard Nixon's younger brother, joined the ownership
Richard
group,
Nixon.
and out of nowhere, a franchise that only existed on paper had a Hall of Fame running back as GM and the president's brother as a part owner. Together,
Wow.
this trio sold the idea of a future Seattle NFL team. In August
Wow.
1972, the Kings promoted a Jets versus Steelers preseason exhibition at Husky Stadium, and 44,000 people showed up to it, all to watch two teams with zero connection to Seattle play a game that didn't count, which set a regional attendance record. Right around the same time that
That's
the teams
crazy.
were gaining momentum and showing that Seattle did have
But
the fan base
I was about to
house an
say,
NFL team,
I was just
three
about to say
rival
that.
ownership groups
It
with
showcased
significantly
that
deeper
people would
pockets
actually come out and watch this shit. It actually showed to the NFL possibly that, hey, this is the fan base of people that like to watch football. We got 44,000 people to buy tickets to your shit. These are two of your teams. Now imagine if we had our own team here and y'all come up here every so money in your money, yeah, that money, yeah, nigga.
merged in Seattle, including one backed by the Supersonics owner Sam Schulman and another involving
They already got a basketball team, nigga. You might as well, bro. They like sports. What the fuck?
Trailblazers owner Herman Sarkowski. This was a problem because Field had already burned through a couple $100,000 of his own money trying to will the Kings into existence. And now he was just a small-time operator in a room full of people who owned professional sports teams. By October of 1974, Field and the Kings no longer had the funds to compete, and the Kings quietly dissolved. Before we get to the rest of the video, here's a quick word from today's sponsor,
And before we get to the rest of the video, here's a quick word from my chips that I got right here. You already know, man. If you don't know, the Fritos, the honey barbecue with the twist joints. Better wisen up, nigga. Mm-hmm.
Dory. You may be saying to yourself, wow, my favorite.
I'm saying to myself, I
It's
gotta
saying
go.
what is in my
I gotta go. They ain't giving me no money. You know?
shorts, pants, job.
You ain't give me no type of bread. I'd appreciate some, though. I wear clothes.
Viore for being a
Yep.
sponsor on the channel again.
Yep, Viore.
Now back
Viore. I
to the
wear
video.
clothes too,
The
Viore.
Memphis Grizzlies. John
And
Bassett
football.
was the wealthiest owner in the World Football League, a rival pro football league that launched in 1974 to compete
World
with the NFL.
Football League.
This franchise was based in Toronto, and they were called the Northmen. That was until the Canadian Prime Minister announced legislation that would have kept American leagues out of the country. The threat of legislation alone pushed Bassett south to Memphis, before his team had played a single game. Once they relocated, he renamed them the Memphis Southmen. Bassett had lofty goals, and he wasn't just trying to win in the WFL. His real plan was to use the team as leverage into the NFL and prove the city could support a pro franchise by building an NFL caliber roster and forcing the league to either absorb the Southmen outright or grant Memphis an expansion team. He hired John McVay as head coach, who would later become the general manager of the San Francisco 49ers during the Montana Walsh dynasty. And in March of 1974,
that ain't Sean McVay daddy, is it?
The richest player deal in pro sports history. He signed Larry Zonka, Jim Kick, and Paul Warfield away from the defending Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins for
how much money he was giving him?
$3.5 million.
How much is that in a day? Nah. I don't feel like looking it up, bro. My computer running too slow.
Became the WFL's flagship franchise, and they even had Elvis Presley occasionally sitting in the Memphis stands like any other fan. By the looks of it, Bassett's master plan seemed like it was about
that nigga looked like he gonna take some money out your pockets.
Collapsed midway through its second season in 1975, and all of Bassett's NFL leverage went down with it.
Nigga was smoking a cigarette on the field?
John Bassett didn't move his team to another country just to give up. He immediately filed for an NFL expansion franchise, and this time he proposed to call the team the Memphis Grizzlies. To prove that the market in Memphis was real, he organized an NFL-a-thon telethon on Memphis's WMC TV in December of 1975, and this telethon pulled in roughly 40,000 season ticket deposits. Even with the overwhelming support, when the NFL's expansion committee finally got around to reviewing the bid, they ultimately said no. The reasons ended up being procedural because of an unresolved antitrust lawsuit and the absence of a collective bargaining agreement, but the bottom line was the same. Bassett's application fee came back in the mail, and the Memphis Grizzlies were denied. Bassett would go on to sue the
I was about to say, he went on to like do the NBA one, right? He went to court.
the NFL, and he grinded through 4 years of litigation before the Third Circuit Court of Appeals finally ruled in favor of the NFL in 1983.
Damn.
The Grizzlies, like the Southmen before them, would never play it down in the NFL. The Arizona Firebirds. Bart Starr had just been fired as head coach of the Green Bay Packers when a group of Phoenix businessmen came knocking on his door begging him to become the coach of the Arizona Firebirds, which was an NFL expansion team that only existed on paper. This group of men had been working since 1980 to land a team for Phoenix, with former American Football League Commissioner Joe Foss leading the charge. Bart Starr would ultimately accept their offer.
Why is that, though?
January 13th of 1984,
why Phoenix
the Firebirds
specifically?
officially announced that Starr was now their head coach and director of football operations. NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle spoke highly of the things that were happening.
Well, maybe
in
not Phoenix specifically,
which made the Firebirds ownership
Firebirds.
that an NFL expansion franchise was just around the corner. They were so confident that they privately financed a 72,000-seat stadium plan that they claimed could break ground within 48 hours of being awarded a franchise. Unfortunately for the Firebirds, the day that they were waiting for never came. They would spend 4 more years trying to convince the NFL that the Firebirds were the team for Phoenix. But on January 15th of 1988, the St. Louis Cardinals owner Bill Bidwill announced that he was moving his Cardinals
I can't smoke in the crib, bro.
to Phoenix. After investing millions of dollars, of work, and going out of their way to get Bart Starr as their head coach, the Firebirds would vanish with absolutely nothing to show for it. The New Jersey Generals.
New Jersey
Generals.
Oh, fuck this dude. Fuck this nigga. I don't like this piece of shit. Let's keep going.
1983 for around $9 million. And he inherited a
excuse me,
roster that already had the USFL's biggest star in Herschel Walker. The United States Football League had launched that same year to compete with the NFL by playing in the offseason, and most of its owners were fine with that. But Trump was not. Right off the bat, he signed Heisman winner Doug Flutie. He also tried to poach Hall of Fame head coach Don Shula away from the Miami Dolphins, but would ultimately fail. And in January of 1986, he orchestrated a merger between his Generals and the Houston Gamblers, bringing over the Gamblers quarterback Jim
Houston Gamblers, UFL.
Kelly, and yes, that is the same Jim Kelly who would later lead the Buffalo Bills to four straight Super Bowls. After the merger, Trump now had Walker, Kelly,
that's crazy,
and Flutie all on the same roster, and most would agree that that was a lineup that would have made his Generals extremely competitive in the USFL. However, competing in the USFL was never the point. Trump's real strategy was to push the entire USFL schedule to a fall schedule. This would in turn force a head-on collision with the NFL, and from there, the USFL could either win a lawsuit big enough to compel a merger or financially bleed the league into absorbing USFL teams. The NFL was never about to let that happen. At a March 1984 meeting at New York's Pierre Hotel, witnesses said that Commissioner Pete Rozelle said to Trump's face, "As long as I or my heirs are involved in the NFL, you will never be a franchise owner in the league." So, Trump pushed the USFL to sue. The league filed a $1.69 billion antitrust suit against the NFL, and they argued that the NFL used its monopoly over professional football to pressure TV networks into shutting the USFL out of fall broadcasting. Antitrust laws existed to prevent dominant companies from using their power to crush smaller competitors, and the USFL's argument was that the NFL had done exactly that and done it deliberately. In July of 1986, the jury actually sided with the USFL, and they found that the NFL had violated antitrust law. But the jury also decided that the USFL's problems were mostly self-inflicted, and they settled the case by awarding the USFL $1 in damages. Funnily enough, federal antitrust law automatically triples any award, so the final check to the USFL came out to $3, and it was reportedly never cashed. Trump's whole strategy had been built on either a massive payout that would fund the league's move to a false.
This nigga always been a horrible businessman,
forcing the NFL to merge.
This nigga's a fucking idiot, bro. Who the fuck do you think you are, nigga? Who? He always thought he was somebody, bro. That shit crazy. This nigga dead thought, I'm gonna make all these niggas change their schedule to the NFL shit. We gonna compete with that nigga. Who the fuck did y'all think y'all were? It's the NFL. You never do that. Niggas is established. Who are you to compete with the eyes of people that already know this is the pro league, this is my team, these are the players on the other teams, I don't know anything about this other league. Why would I choose to watch that game over this game where goddamn who was what year this is? 87 or some shit? Okay. Well, who was around in 87? I don't know, bro. Where somebody that was cold at running back was doing running back shit, and somebody was cold at quarterback chucking balls down the field, and nigga was.
USFL's fall season never happened. The entire league folded after the verdict, and the Generals Gamblers super team.
The entire league folded after the verdict. This nigga ruined the entirety of the league. They was all right till this nigga put his grubby little paws where they didn't need to be. And look what happened to America. Same shit.
Never took a single snap of NFL football. The Memphis Hound Dogs.
And Memphis gonna get them one. Memphis gonna get them one. They said Nashville's got one. We gonna get one. I promise you, before I die, Memphis gonna have an NFL team.
Billy Dunavant Jr., who had previously owned the USFL's Memphis Showboats, knew firsthand just how hungry the city was for pro football, and he wanted to take another swing at Memphis getting their very own NFL franchise. His investor group included Frederick W. Smith, who was the founder and chairman of FedEx, and Paul Tudor Jones, one of the most legendary hedge fund managers on Wall Street. And we can't forget, they also had Elvis Presley Enterprises involved as well. EPE controlled the licensing rights to Elvis's image and name, and in exchange for letting the franchise use Elvis for marketing, they held veto power over the team's branding. They picked the Hound Dogs after Elvis's 1956 hit, and EPE spokesman Todd Morgan told reporters
I ain't mad at that.
The mascot would be rough and tough, just like Elvis. A Memphis commercial appeal poll found that over 70% of the city absolutely hated the name. And that was because to most people, it sounded less like a professional football team and more like a brand of kibble that you would find on the bottom shelf at Walmart. Even though the Memphis fans hated the name isn't what actually killed the team. When the NFL got together to award the 29th and 30th franchises, they chose Charlotte for its market size and Jacksonville for its stadium financing. Memphis got cut because its television market was seen as too small for a league that was chasing eyeballs over passion. Even with $1 billion in investor money and 2 decades of begging for a team, the NFL looked at Memphis and still said no. Frederick W. Smith and a few other investors tried to keep pro football alive in Memphis by launching the Memphis Mad Dogs in the Canadian Football League's 1995 American expansion, which was the year that the CFL briefly and disastrously tried putting teams in U.S. cities. Unfortunately, the Mad Dogs folded after just 1 season, and the rest of the CFL's
That's
American
a weird color combo,
collapsed within a couple years right after them.
I don't see how that would work on a uniform.
Bombers. Leonard Weinglass built the merry-go-round retail chain into a billion-dollar empire, and by 1993, he was pouring that money into bringing the NFL back to Baltimore, which was, as you know, a city that hadn't had a team since Robert Irsay loaded the Colts into a moving van and drove to Indianapolis in 1984. Weinglass was a group of investors to make their bid for a franchise. But they weren't the only ones chasing an NFL team in Baltimore. Another group of investors was doing the same exact thing, and the NFL told both sides that their best move was to get into a room and agree on a single bid, which of course meant that they first had to agree on what to call the team. And that's where the Baltimore Bombers story turns into one of the strangest naming disasters in professional sports. The two sides got together on August 11th of 1993, and they came up with the Baltimore Rhinos. Nobody had pushed for the Rhinos, and Weinglass wanted the Bombers, while the other investor group wanted the Cobras. In order to settle their disagreement, they split the difference into a name that belonged to neither.
Bombers is better.
Is as dumb as it sounds. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, the Rhinos name only lasted for about 7 weeks. The name got absolutely hammered in the local press, local Baltimore fans openly mocked it, and the ownership group accepted that they'd picked a name that nobody actually wanted. The most obvious move was to give the fans what they were asking for and call the team the Ravens, which was their favorite name according to local polling. But that would have made way too much sense for this group of investors. Instead, in October of that same year, Baltimore's official bid for an NFL franchise became the Baltimore Bombers, which honored the B-26 Marauder bombers built in Baltimore during World War II. However, none of it
some war shit.
Because Commissioner Tagliabue rejected Baltimore's bid, and it was rumored that behind the scenes, he was working with Redskins owner Jack Kent Cooke to keep a team out of the DC area. And just like that, the Baltimore Bombers were no more. The St. Louis Stallions. Of all of the Phantom franchises in this video, the St. Louis Stallions came the closest to actually existing. During the 1993 expansion, they had the largest US TV market without an NFL team. They also had Walter Payton as a celebrity investor. They had a fight song playing on the local radio, and they had a new domed stadium under construction that would become the Edward Jones Dome. St. Louis had everything going for it on paper, including James Orthwein, the heir to the Anheuser-Busch beer fortune, who also happened to own the New England Patriots at the time.
That trash-ass team.
Backing, St. Louis was going to be a strong favorite for an NFL franchise bid, and most likely become the NFL's 30th team. But things would come crashing down for the St. Louis Stallions in a way that nobody really saw coming. Right before the NFL's final expansion meetings in Chicago, the league pulled the St. Louis group aside and told them they needed to put more money on the table. That alone wasn't fatal, but it triggered everything else. A major investor got cold feet about the increased financial commitment and abruptly pulled out, which blew a massive hole in the funding structure. Then, the lease negotiations on the new stadium, which had been dragging on between the bid group and the city, collapsed entirely once the money got shaky. And Orthwein, who had been watching the entire thing crumble, decided to scale back his ownership stake all the way down to just 12%, which created another financial gap that nobody could fill. So in the span of just a few weeks, the Stallions went from being the consensus favorite to a group with no lease and not enough funding. The NFL looked at the wreckage and decided to give the 30th franchise to Jacksonville instead, making the St. Louis Stallions yet another team.
Damn, that nigga was hype. That nigga was ready. He turned himself into a chess piece. That's wild.
And with that wraps up our entire tour of the NFL franchises that almost happened but didn't. Let me know which fan.
That's fire, man. I'm glad that I watched this video. That was very, very interesting, especially to see how some of these teams even came about. Because like with the Philly and Pittsburgh shit, what even was that? Hey man, if y'all like the video, subscribe if you fuck with the vibe. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one, bro. Peace.